Subscribe to Love, Lies, and Cheating. Now let me tell you a story. I did not think of myself as someone who could be catfished. I was not reckless. I was not isolated. I was not desperate for attention. I had a steady job. I paid my bills. I had friends who would answer if I called. I had a routine that felt safe. I also had a quiet kind of loneliness that did not show up in photos. It was not the loneliness of being alone. It was the loneliness of being unseen. I worked with people all day. I talked to friends in group chats. I smiled through meetings. Then I went home and felt like my mind was still full of noise and no one had actually heard me. That is why the first message worked. It did not flirt. It did not compliment. It did not pressure me. It asked a question about a book comment I had left under a discussion thread. Did the ending bother you because it was unresolved or because it felt dishonest? I answered without thinking much about it. I said unresolved. He said dishonest. He explained why. It was thoughtful and calm. The conversation started there and kept going. His account name was simple. No numbers, no symbols, no obvious bait. There was no profile picture. That should have been a sign. Instead, it felt respectful. Like he did not want to show off. Like he did not want to rush. He did not ask what I looked like. He did not ask where I lived. He did not ask for my last name. He asked what music I played when I needed to focus. He asked what small habits I had that annoyed me. He asked whether I liked mornings or nights better. Normal questions. Harmless questions. The kind of questions that feel safe because they do not demand anything in return. He said his name was Noah. He said he traveled for work. That explained why he was online at odd hours. That explained why he could disappear for a day and come back like nothing happened. It explained why meeting would be hard. It was believable because it did not require a complicated story. The first week was easy. I would reply while cooking dinner or folding laundry. I would laugh at something he said and then feel slightly embarrassed that I was smiling at my phone. I would tell myself it was just conversation. People talk online all the time. The second week changed. He started asking questions that were not invasive but were precise. Not where do you live, but what does your window look out on? Not what is your job, but what part drains you the most? Not are you dating, but what makes you feel safe with someone? I answered more than I should have because it felt like he understood. He would respond with empathy and balance. He never argued. He never judged. He made me feel like my thoughts mattered. He also remembered everything. You said you forget lunch when you are stressed. You said you hate grocery shopping late at night. You said you feel lighter after a long walk. At first it felt flattering. Then it felt comforting. Then it felt familiar. We talked most days for almost 3 weeks before anything felt wrong. A message in the morning, a check in late afternoon, a longer conversation at night. Sometimes we did not talk at all. Sometimes we talked for hours. There was no pressure, no expectations. He started sending voice notes, short ones, calm ones, never long enough to analyze, just long enough to sound real. It was a steady voice, warm but not syrupy, confident but not cocky, the kind of voice that makes you picture someone sitting across a table, leaning in, listening. I asked for a call once, a simple call. He declined politely, said his schedule was messy, said he was in shared spaces when he traveled, said voice notes were easier. I accepted that because it sounded reasonable. That is how catfishing works. It does not break logic. It bends it gently until you do not notice the curve. The first time I paused was not dramatic. It was one sentence. You always touch your necklace when you are nervous. I stared at my phone. I did wear a necklace, a thin silver chain with a small circle charm. I had worn it for years. I did not remember telling him about it. I searched our messages for the word necklace. Nothing. I asked him what he meant. He said it was a guess. He said people have tells. I accepted that explanation because I wanted to. Because the alternative felt embarrassing. Because I did not want to be the person who overreacted. A few days later, I was at a coffee shop near my apartment. A small place I went to when I needed quiet. I did not post about it. I did not tag it. It was not part of my online life. I was standing in line when my phone buzzed. Do not get the blueberry muffin. It is dry today. I looked at the pastry case. The blueberry muffins did look dry. I felt a quick spike of unease. I asked how he knew. He said it was a lucky guess. I ordered something else. I told myself I was imagining patterns where there were none. The blueberry muffins did look dry. I felt a quick spike of unease. I asked how he knew. He said it was a lucky guess. I ordered something else. I told myself I was imagining patterns where there were none. Then the messages started matching my day in ways that did not feel like guessing. You are staying late tonight. You are tired even though you did not say it. You did not go where you said you were going. At first, I thought it was intuition. Then coincidence. Then I started paying attention. Noah did not message when I was in meetings. He did not message when I was with friends. He messaged when I was alone. He went quiet during the hours I was busy and returned when I was free. It felt like alignment. It felt like someone watching a schedule. I tested him. I told him I might go to the gym after work. I never go to the gym after work. Instead, I went to a bookstore across town and stayed there for 2 hours. I did not message him once. During that time, he did not message me at all. That was unusual. He normally checked in at least once in the evening. When I got home, my phone buzzed. Home now. I did not respond. A minute later, another message arrived. You did not go to the gym. My hands started shaking. I typed one word. How? The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times. Then he wrote that he just knew me. That was the first time fear replaced curiosity. I searched his username across every platform I could think of. Nothing appeared. No posts, no old comments, no trace. That should have reassured me. Instead, it felt engineered. I stopped replying for a full day. When he messaged again, the tone had changed. I do not like when you disappear. I said I was busy. He asked with what? That question felt wrong, not curious, possessive. I did not reply. 5 minutes later, another message arrived. You do not have to be scared. Then another. I am not going to hurt you. I had not accused him of anything. I had not expressed fear. Yet he responded as if I had. That sentence tightened my chest. When someone says they will not hurt you without being asked, your body hears a threat anyway. That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying the timing and the details. Around 2 a.m, my phone vibrated with a security alert from my building. Motion detected in hallway. I opened the camera feed. The image was grainy. The hallway lights were dim, but I could see someone standing near my door. They were there for less than a minute, just long enough to place something on the floor. Then they walked away toward the stairwell. In the morning, I opened my door slowly. A package sat outside. No label, no return address, just brown paper and twine. Inside was a book. The same book we had discussed. The same edition. Even the same printing error on the spine that I had joked about in my original comment. My hands felt numb. I messaged Noah. Did you leave this outside my door? There was a long pause. Then he replied, "I told you I pay attention." I asked how he got my address. He said I did not remember everything I had shared. That was when I knew something was very wrong. I had never shared my address, not directly, not indirectly, not anywhere. I stopped replying. Within an hour, a new message came from a different account, different name, same writing style. "You can block a profile. You cannot block me." That was the moment it stopped being online. That was the moment it became real. I started documenting everything, screenshots, dates, times. I made a list of people in my real life who knew where I lived, who knew my schedule, who knew my habits. The list was longer than I expected. That night, another message arrived. "One more thing. Check your car." My parking spot was not assigned. It changed daily. The only way someone could know which car was mine was if they watched me. I went to the garage with my keys clenched in my fist. A note was tucked under my windshield wiper. "Stop pretending you do not feel this too." I sat in my car for a long time before driving away, because I finally understood that this was not about romance. It was about access. Whoever was doing this was close enough to see me in the real world. After the note on my car, I stopped answering entirely. I did not say goodbye. I did not explain. I went quiet. He did not stop. The new account sent messages that sounded almost gentle at first. "I know I scared you. I am sorry. I just want to talk." Then the tone shifted again. "Do not ignore me. Do not act like I am nothing." Then it softened again, like a wave retreating. "You deserve someone who sees you. I see you." That up and down was the first clear pattern. It was not conversation, it was conditioning. Kindness followed by pressure. Pressure followed by kindness. A rhythm that made me second-guess my own reactions. I told myself not to engage. Still, I read every message. It is hard not to. It feels like information. It feels like safety. It feels like if you know what they are thinking, you can stay one step ahead. One afternoon at work, my phone buzzed with a picture message from an unknown number. It was a photo of me. Not a selfie. Not a photo from social media. A candid shot. Me walking out of the building. My hair tucked behind one ear. My necklace visible. My stomach turned. The message below it said, "You look tired today." I did not respond. I stood up and went to the restroom and locked myself in a stall. I pressed my hand over my mouth because the sound in my throat was not a sob, but it wanted to be. That photo changed the case in my mind. Before that, I could pretend this was all digital. After that, I could not. I went straight to building security. Not my apartment building, my work building. I asked if anyone had been taking photos near the entrance. They said there were cameras outside, but they could not identify individuals without a report. I filed an internal report with security. They promised to review footage. That night, the Catfish messaged, "You asked security about the photo." I felt the room tilt. Because that meant whoever was doing this was not just watching me. They were watching my reactions. They were watching where I went and who I spoke to. I called Marissa again. She came over with takeout and sat at my kitchen table like she lived there. She did not ask me to calm down. She did not tell me it would be fine. She asked me to show her everything. We printed screenshots. We wrote dates on a notepad. We circled times. We compared them to my calendar. Then she asked a question that made my chest tighten. "Has Noah ever used details from your past that are not public?" I thought about it. At first, I said no. Then I remembered something small. He once mentioned a street name from the town where I grew up. Not a famous street. A side street near the library. He wrote it casually. I bet you would have liked that old library on Willow Street. I had not mentioned Willow Street to him. I had not posted about my hometown in years. I did not even use it in my bio. When I asked how he knew, he said he guessed. He said lots of towns have a Willow Street. That was true, but it felt like a dodge. Marissa said we should consider someone who knew my history. Someone who had been around long enough to learn those details. That opened a different list. An ex-boyfriend named Jordan. A former friend named Kelsey. A cousin who drifted away. People from my past who still followed my online accounts quietly. I hated that list. It felt like dragging old ghosts into the light. Jordan was the easiest name to land on. Not because he was a villain, because he was familiar. We dated years ago. The breakup was not explosive. It was slow. We wanted different lives. We stopped calling. We moved on. Or at least I thought we moved on. I checked his social media. He was still in the city. He had a new job, a new apartment, no partner in sight, nothing alarming. I messaged him anyway. A simple question. Hey, random question. Have you been messaging me from any other account lately? He replied within minutes. No. What are you talking about? I asked if he had been near my building recently. Number. Why would I? He sounded confused. He sounded annoyed. That did not clear him. People can lie. But it also did not fit his style. Jordan was blunt. He would have mocked the whole thing. He would not have played a long, slow game. Still, the next day, the Catfish messaged. Do not bring him into this. My blood went cold. I had not told the Catfish about Jordan. I had not written his name anywhere public. I had only sent one private message to Jordan. Marissa stared at me when I told her. She said one sentence. That means your phone or your accounts are compromised, or someone is close enough to see you type. That sentence narrowed the world. I changed passwords again. I enabled two-factor everything. I checked my phone for suspicious apps. I ran scans. I called my phone provider and asked them to confirm there were no duplicate SIM cards on the account. Everything checked out, which left the worst option. Someone close could see me. At work, I started keeping my phone face down. I stopped typing personal messages at my desk. I went outside if I needed to text. The Catfish still knew. You turned your phone over today. You left your desk to text. You are trying to hide. That was when I understood that this was not just observation. It was control. He wanted me to know that I could not escape his view. The next escalation was subtle and cruel. A small envelope appeared in my work mailbox. No return address. Inside was a printed screenshot of my own message thread with Noah from the first week. A highlight marker circled one line. You make me feel seen. Under it, someone had written in block letters, Good. Keep feeling it. My hand shook as I held the paper. I could not tell if the shaking was fear or anger. I went to HR with that envelope. I expected them to look uncomfortable. They did more than that. They looked alarmed. They asked me to sit down. They asked who had access to my mailbox. They asked whether I had shared the messages with anyone. I said no. They said they would involve security immediately. That afternoon, security reviewed footage near the mail area. They could not identify a clear face. The angle was wrong. The hallway was crowded. The person moved like they belonged. That is the phrase that haunted me. Moved like they belonged. Because that is what makes catfishing from proximity so powerful. The catfish does not have to break in. The catfish is already in the building. That night, Marissa suggested we create a controlled test again. Not a test in the garage. A test that would reveal whether the catfish could see inside my workplace. We decided on a phrase. A unique phrase that I would only say once out loud at my desk. I would not type it. I would not text it. I would not post it. The phrase was strange on purpose. Blue Lantern Tuesday. The next morning I said it once quietly while looking at my screen as if I were reading something. If the catfish referenced that phrase, we would know the catfish could hear or see me at work. That afternoon, a message arrived. Blue Lantern Tuesday. My whole body went cold. That confirmed it. This was not a hacked account. This was not an old friend. This was someone physically present near me during my day. Now the suspect list shrank sharply. It was someone inside the building, someone near my desk, someone who watched me. Marissa told me to stop walking through the world like I was alone. She asked me to consider that the catfish might be using multiple vantage points. The garage, the hallway, the mail area, all places where people pass through and no one stands out. That is when we realized something else. The person outside my apartment door came from the stairwell. The person in the garage wore a hoodie and cap. The person at the mailbox moved like they belonged. These could be different people, or one person changing outfits, or one person using help. The idea of help made my stomach drop. I wanted this to be a single-person problem because single-person problems can be solved. A network is harder. A network is scarier. I asked the detective about that possibility. He said it happens more often than people think. Not always a coordinated group. Sometimes one person pulls someone else in for access. Sometimes someone offers help without understanding what they are helping. That is when the story shifted again. Because if Aaron was involved, he might not be acting alone. And if he was not alone, then removing him would not be the end. The next day at work, I felt exposed. The office was open concept, long desks, shared space, no walls. I became aware of how visible I was. Who could see my screen? Who could see when my phone lit up? Who could see when I rubbed my neck or tapped my foot? I hated that awareness. I hated that it made me suspicious of people who had never given me reason to be. But fear reorganizes your thoughts without warning. I went to the police that morning. I showed them the messages, the screenshots, the hallway footage. They asked practical questions. Did he ask for money? Did he threaten you directly? Did he ask to meet you? When I said no, their tone shifted. Concerned, but not urgent. They suggested blocking and tightening privacy. I told them I already had. I told them he returned under a new account. They opened a report and told me to keep documenting and call if anything escalated. I left feeling unsettled because nothing he had done yet forced action. It lived in the space between unwanted and provable. I changed my routines immediately. I left work at different times. I parked on different levels. I stopped going to places that felt predictable. I did not announce any of it online. Still, the messages adjusted. If I left early, he knew. If I stayed late, he knew. If I skipped my usual stops, he noticed. I started listing suspects, people who could realistically have this level of access. The first suspect was Colin, my neighbor. He lived 2 doors down. Friendly. Maybe too friendly. He had commented on my necklace once, months earlier. Said it looked delicate. At the time, it meant nothing. Now, everything meant something. I tested him carefully. In the hallway, I mentioned I might move soon. His reaction was fast. He asked why. His eyes flicked to my phone, then back to my face. He asked if I was okay. It sounded normal, but it lingered. That night, a message came. You are not moving. My stomach dropped. I had not said anything about moving online. I had only said it out loud to Colin. The next morning, I asked building management whether anyone had been on my floor overnight. They said only residents should be there. They said they could not share detailed footage without a police request. I asked the police to request it. They said they could do that if the situation escalated further. So I did what fear makes you do. I tried to gather proof myself. I set my phone to record audio when I entered the hallway. I watched the stairwell door to see who came out. I stood near the mail area at odd times and pretended to scroll while I listened. For 3 days, nothing happened. No new package. No footsteps at night. No figure on the hallway feed. Then on the 4th night, a new message arrived. Stop circling the stairwell. My hands went cold. I had not told anyone I was doing that. I had not posted it. I had not hinted at it. I realized then that I might be performing this whole investigation for an audience of one. That realization made me feel exposed in a way I cannot explain. Like the walls were thin. Like the air itself was reporting back. I called my friend Marissa that night. She is the kind of friend who does not overreact. She asks questions. She gets practical. She asked me to read the messages out loud. She asked me to show her the footage. She asked me to explain the timing. Then she asked the question I avoided. Who in your real life can see you often enough to know your schedule? I said my coworkers. I said my neighbor. I said the barista, maybe. I said that sounded ridiculous. Marissa did not laugh. She said the same thing the detective would later say. Most danger is not dramatic. Most danger is familiar. Marissa suggested a decoy plan. She said we should feed the catfish a detail that only one path could reveal. Not a detail that people could overhear. A detail tied to a controlled environment. We decided to use my car. On Friday evening, I would park in a specific place in the garage. Not my usual level. A place the security camera could clearly capture. Then I would tell Noah under the new account that I was going to be out of town on Saturday. I would not actually leave. Instead, Marissa would pick me up so my car would stay in place and we could see if anyone approached it. It felt ridiculous. It also felt like the only way to turn the fear into something concrete. Friday came. I parked where we planned. I took a photo of the spot for my own reference. I did not send it to anyone. That night I messaged the new account. I will be out of town tomorrow. A response came within minutes. Be careful. Then another. I will miss you. That line made me feel sick because it sounded tender and threatening at the same time. Saturday morning, Marissa picked me up and we drove around aimlessly for a while. We got coffee. We sat in a public park. We kept our phones off except to check the building camera. Nothing happened for hours. Then around noon, the motion alert triggered in the garage. The camera view was not perfect, but it was enough. Someone walked up to my car and stood near the driver door. They did not touch it. They did not leave a note. They just stood there for about 30 seconds. Then they walked away. I replayed it over and over. Tall figure, dark hoodie, baseball cap. It could have been anyone. Then the figure paused briefly at the elevator call button. The camera angle caught the side profile for a second. Marissa and I both saw the same thing. A face that looked like Colin. I felt a rush of relief and terror at the same time. Relief because it gave the fear a shape. Terror because it meant my neighbor might be the one who had been doing this. We went back to the building. We did not confront him. We called the police and told them we had footage of someone approaching my car after the Catfish referenced it. The officer listened and agreed to request the building footage. building management cooperated once the request came through. They provided higher resolution clips from multiple angles. By Monday, the officer called me back. The person in the garage was not Colin. It looked like Colin at a glance, but the face did not match closely enough. The officer said the person was using a cap and angle to disguise features. The officer also said something that chilled me. Sometimes people want you to suspect the obvious person. I asked what that meant. He said it meant someone could be creating a false trail. Someone could be using my fear to point me at a convenient scapegoat. That possibility changed everything. If Noah wanted me to suspect Colin, then Colin might be innocent. I felt sick thinking about the hallway conversation, the way I watched him, the way I judged his reaction. I started to see the second layer of harm in catfishing. It does not just manipulate the target. It can poison the target's whole life. It was not just me who felt unsafe. It was my community. I started a new list. A list of people who could want me to suspect Colin. That list included someone I had not considered. Someone who had asked me once whether I trusted my neighbors. Someone who had made a joke about people being nosy. That person was Aaron. He sat 2 rows behind me at work. I had dismissed him because he was quiet, because he was polite, because he seemed harmless. Now I could not ignore the timing. Noah messaged when I was alone. Noah went quiet in meetings. Noah knew when I stayed late. Noah knew my tells. Someone would have to see me. I started tracking my own day like an investigator. When I left my desk, when I took calls, when I went to the kitchen, when I went to the garage. Then I matched it with message timestamps. The overlap was not perfect, but it was too close. Noah messages often came right after I left my desk. Noah messages often came during breaks. Noah messages often came after Aaron returned from his own breaks. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then Noah made the mistake that confirmed the proximity. One night, after hours of silence, a message arrived that broke pattern. I hate pretending I do not exist. That did not sound like the calm Noah persona. It sounded like someone tired of hiding. I responded carefully. What do you mean? A long pause. Then, I sit near you every day. My breath caught. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. Near where? The typing indicator appeared and disappeared. Then, nothing. Minutes passed. Then a message arrived. I should not have said that. That was confirmation. I forwarded everything to HR and security at my company. This time I did not hedge. I did not minimize. I showed them everything. I had reviewed access logs and timing patterns. They checked whether anyone had access to my desk or my calendar. They checked the company network logs. They also checked whether any employee device had used the same apps at the same times. The evidence was not a perfect line, but it did not need to be. HR interviewed Aaron. He did not deny it. He did not panic. He looked relieved. He said he never meant to scare me. He said he wanted to be honest without risking rejection. He said he felt invisible as himself. So he became someone else, someone I trusted. He said the voice notes were him. He said he wrote the messages on a second phone. He said he watched my reactions at work and adjusted his tone. If I seemed anxious, he softened. If I seemed distant, he intensified. It was not impulsive. It was adaptive, calculated. HR removed him from the building that day and cut his access. Authorities were notified. Statements were taken. Records were reviewed. After HR interviewed Aaron and he admitted it, I expected relief. I expected my body to exhale. I expected the world to feel normal again. Instead, I felt a strange emptiness. Like someone had turned off a loud fan and I could suddenly hear my own thoughts. Aaron was escorted out. His access was cut. His desk was cleared. People whispered in corners. The building felt like it was holding its breath. For 48 hours, there were no messages. I slept one full night. Not perfectly, but enough. I ate a real meal. I went for a walk in daylight. Then on the third day, a new message arrived from an unknown number. "You think it is over." My hands went numb. I forwarded it to the detective immediately. I forwarded it to HR. I did not reply. Another message arrived 10 minutes later. "It is not over until I say it is over." I sat on my couch staring at the wall. Because if Aaron had admitted it and been removed, then who was sending this? The detective called me back and asked a careful question. "Are you sure no one else had access to his devices?" I said I did not know. I said maybe. I said I had no idea. He told me to do one thing. Do not respond. Do not block. Let the messages come. We need the pattern. The next message came that night. "Look outside your window." My stomach tightened. I did not move. I checked the hallway camera first. Nothing. I checked the street view from my window. People walking. Cars passing. Nothing. Then another message. Not the street. Your hallway. I checked the hallway camera again. Someone was standing near my door. This time, they did not place anything down. They stood very still for almost a minute. Then they walked away toward the stairwell like the first time. I watched the clip over and over. The face was not visible. The posture looked familiar. Or maybe I was projecting. The detective requested the higher resolution footage from building management. They also asked building management to check key fob records. Who used the stairwell door during that time? Who entered the floor? The results were not clean. The stairwell door was not key fob controlled. Anyone could use it from inside. That meant the hallway footage was still the best evidence. The detective asked me if anyone in my building knew about the situation. I said no. Then I thought about it. I had mentioned it to Colin indirectly. The moving comment. The hallway conversation. I had asked building management for footage. I had been standing near the mail area looking suspicious. People notice. Someone could have heard. The detective said the most important thing next was to reduce variables. He asked if I could stay somewhere else for a week. A friend. A family member. I stayed with Marissa. At her place, I felt safer because the Catfish did not have direct access. At least that is what I told myself. The first night there, I received another message. You can move bodies. You cannot move habits. I did not reply. Another message. You will come back to the same patterns. You always do. That sentence hit a nerve because it sounded personal, not like a generic threat, like someone who had studied me. The detective told me to write down every person who knew Aaron and also knew where I lived. The list was shorter than I expected. Aaron, a few coworkers, a friend of his from another department named Simone, a security guard who joked around with everyone. And then the detective asked me to list everyone who could physically reach my apartment door without being noticed. Residents, their visitors, maintenance, delivery people. Anyone who looked like they belonged. That list was huge. So we narrowed again. The figure on the hallway camera walked with confidence. Not like a visitor looking for an apartment. Not like a delivery person checking numbers. Like someone who knew exactly where they were going. That suggested a resident or staff. The detective asked building management for a list of staff who had keys to common areas and also knew resident schedules. Maintenance had keys, cleaning had keys, management had keys. The building manager was a woman named Denise. She was polite and very busy. She had brushed off my earlier requests, but now she cooperated fully because police were involved. She provided a staff list. She provided cleaning schedules. She provided maintenance logs. She also provided a list of residents who had reported issues on my floor recently. Colin had reported a noise issue. A woman down the hall had reported a leak. Another resident had reported a broken stairwell light. Broken stairwell light. That caught my attention. The stairwell light had been flickering for weeks. It was dim enough to hide a face. It was also bright enough to see a silhouette. The maintenance request was submitted 2 weeks before the first hallway package appeared. The request was submitted by Colin. My stomach dropped. The detective asked whether Colin had ever been inside my apartment. I said no. He asked whether Colin had ever asked personal questions. I said he had asked where I worked once. He asked whether Colin knew my name. I said yes. It is on the mailboxes. The detective said he wanted to speak with Colin. I did not want that. I felt guilty even imagining Colin being questioned. But I also wanted the fear to end. The detective interviewed Colin 2 days later. Colin denied everything. He seemed confused. He seemed offended. He offered to show his phone. He offered to show his schedule. The detective said Colin had an alibi for the hallway incident. Colin was at a bar with friends at the time. There were receipts. There were photos. There were people who confirmed. That cleared him for that moment. But it did not explain why the messages continued. The detective suspected one of two things. Either Aaron was still messaging from somewhere, or someone else had picked up the role. He explained that catfishing can become an identity that others can adopt. Once the character exists, it can be worn like a mask. That idea scared me more than the original, because a mask can move from face to face. Then IT at my workplace found something. A second phone. Not on Aaron. Not in his desk. Not in the building. A second phone connected to the guest Wi-Fi near my desk multiple times during the period when the messages began. They could not identify the owner from the connection alone, but they could identify the device. The device had connected at the same time every day for a week. Late afternoon. Just before I usually left. It connected for short bursts, then disconnected. Like someone stepping into range to send a message. IT said the device also connected once at night, after hours, when almost no one was in the building. Security reviewed footage for those connection windows. A person walked past my area at those times, not Aaron. It was Simone. Simone worked 2 departments over. She was friendly, loud, the kind of person who laughed easily, the kind of person no one suspects. The detective asked if I knew Simone well. I said no. I said we had talked at company events. I said she seemed normal. The detective asked whether Simone had any relationship with Aaron. HR confirmed they were close. They had lunch together often. They had carpooled sometimes. The detective interviewed Simone. Simone cried. Simone denied it. Simone said Aaron had told her I was the one who had been flirting with him. Simone said she thought she was helping him prove a point. Simone said she did not think it would get this serious. The detective asked what she meant by helping. Simone admitted Aaron had asked her to leave the envelope in my mailbox at work. She said he framed it as romantic. He said he wanted to show me that he had been paying attention. He said he wanted to surprise me. Simone said she knew it was weird, but she did it because she thought it would make him happy. Then the detective asked about the hallway. Simone said she had never been to my building, so the mailbox was explained. The hallway was not. The detective asked Aaron again. Aaron admitted he had asked Simone for that favor. He also admitted he had asked someone else. Someone who lived near me. Someone who could access my building without looking out of place. Aaron said he had met that person online in a forum. Aaron said it was just someone he chatted with. Aaron said he had asked for a simple favor. Leave the book. Leave the note. Nothing more. The detective asked for a name. Aaron said Colin. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. The detective followed up. Colin had not been the author. Colin had been the assistant. The convenient suspect was not convenient by accident. Aaron wanted me to look at Colin. Aaron wanted my fear to aim at the neighbor. Aaron used Colin for access and also for camouflage. When the detective questioned Colin again this time with the full story, Colin admitted it. He said Aaron was his cousin. He said Aaron had contacted him months earlier. He said Aaron asked him to watch out for me. He said Aaron made it sound harmless. He said it started with simple questions. What time do you see her come home? Does she park on the same level? Does she have a boyfriend? Colin said he should have stopped. Colin said he did not understand how invasive it was until the police showed him the messages and the printed screenshots. The detective told me later that Colin never logged into the account. He was not the writer. He was the eyes and legs. That explained the hallway. That explained the garage. That explained how Noah knew the coffee shop. That explained the muffin message. Colin had seen me go there. He had watched where I walked. He had watched what I carried. He had reported back to Aaron. Aaron then used that information online to feel omniscient. That was the real horror. The Catfish was not a stranger. The Catfish was a local network. One mind and multiple hands. After that discovery, the messages stopped permanently. Not because the pattern lost power, because the access was finally cut. Colin was warned and faced consequences with building management. He moved out a few months later. Aaron faced legal consequences and employment consequences, and the kind of quiet social collapse that does not show up online but ruins your life anyway. The detective told me something that helped me understand the shape of it. Aaron did not want to meet you. He already sat near you. He wanted to control the version of himself you met. That sentence explained the whole story. He wanted me to fall for the mask first. He wanted me to choose the voice before the face. He wanted me to need him before I knew him. That is not romance. That is theft. Even knowing all of that, I did not feel normal again quickly. Because the world had changed. I had assumed strangers were the risk. I had assumed danger looked loud. Now I knew danger can look like a coworker who holds the door, a neighbor who waves, a friend of a friend who laughs at your jokes. That knowledge sat inside me like a new organ. Always there, always working. It made ordinary moments feel complicated. It made compliments feel suspicious. It made attention feel heavy. It also made me more careful in a way I did not want to be. I started treating my life like information. I started thinking about what I revealed with routine. I started understanding that privacy is not just settings on a phone. It is patterns. It is predictability. It is who can see you when you think no one is watching. That is what stayed. Not the fear. The awareness that being seen can be a gift or a weapon depending on who is looking. And that is why this story still matters to me. Because it did not start with a threat. It started with a question about a book. And it ended with me learning that the person who knew me best online did not know me at all. He watched me. And he had help. That is what catfishing looks like when it is already in your life. On paper, things moved fast. In my body, nothing moved fast. I took time off. Not because I needed a vacation, because I needed distance from every desk and hallway and elevator. I stayed with a friend across town for a few nights, then another, then a hotel. I did not sleep well anywhere. The messages stopped. That should have been comforting. Instead, the silence felt louder than the noise. Because silence gives your mind room to replay everything. Every sentence, every detail, every moment I brushed aside. I kept thinking about how careful it had all been, how nothing he did crossed an obvious line at first. He never asked for money, he never demanded my time, he never threatened me. He just knew me. People are taught to look for red flags that shout. This one whispered. I met with a detective. He asked me to walk through everything again. Out loud, it sounded worse, more intentional, more deliberate. At the end, he said something I still hear in my head. People think deception always looks like manipulation. Sometimes it looks like patience. I asked what would happen next. He said it depended on evidence and intent and how things were framed. He was careful with his words. I understood what that meant. What happened to me did not fit neatly into a box. It lived in the space between unwanted and provable. I moved apartments a month later. New building, new routine, new locks. I changed my number. I deleted old accounts. I did everything people tell you to do after something like this. But safety did not return immediately. Safety is not something you flip back on. It is something you rebuild slowly. I noticed changes in myself. I stopped sharing small details casually. I avoided habits that made me predictable. I questioned attention even when it was kind. I hated that. Some friends understood. Some minimized it. At least nothing physical happened, they said. At least you caught it early, they said. Those sentences made me feel smaller. Because the damage was not measured in visible harm. It was measured in stolen autonomy. Weeks later, the detective called and asked for one more statement. When I arrived, he told me Aaron had admitted to the account and the messages and the notes. He insisted he never intended harm. He believed he was building trust. He thought that once I cared, I would understand. I asked if Aaron understood how wrong it was now. The detective paused and said he did now. That was not comforting. Understanding after the fact does not undo what was done. Months passed. The fear dulled, not disappeared, softened. I slept through the night again. I stopped checking the hallway camera. I stopped holding my keys like a weapon. Then one afternoon, something small almost broke me. I was at a grocery store checking out. The cashier commented on my necklace. Nice necklace. I froze. It was nothing. Just a comment. I smiled and nodded and walked to my car. Then I sat there shaking until the feeling passed. That is when I realized the damage was not the event itself. It was the residue. The way something ordinary could become threatening. The way attention could feel like surveillance. After the investigation closed, people expected me to bounce back. They expected a clean before and after. But the nervous system does not work that way. I returned to work eventually. The office looked the same. The desk rows were the same. The coffee machine made the same sound. The small jokes in meetings were the same. I was not the same. I noticed how often people look at each other without thinking. How often someone stands too close in a line. How often a coworker knows your schedule because it is visible. How many casual details can be collected without breaking any rules. I requested a desk change, not because I believed the desk itself was cursed, because I needed my body to learn a new safe pattern. HR approved it without question. I also started parking in a different garage. It cost more. It was farther. It made my mornings harder. But it made my evenings calmer. That trade was worth it. Marissa asked me to see a therapist. I resisted at first. I told her I was fine. I told her the problem was solved. I told her therapy was for bigger things. Marissa said the simplest sentence: "This is a bigger thing." So I went. The therapist did not focus on the Catfish account. She focused on what the account did to my sense of control. She asked what I believed about safety before. She asked what I believed about attention before. She said something that stuck. When someone steals your sense of privacy, you start treating the world like it is always watching. Healing is teaching your body that most eyes are not hunting. That took time, indicate. It took repetition. It took me doing normal things again without scanning for danger. I started small. I went to the coffee shop again in daylight and ordered a blueberry muffin on purpose. It was dry. I laughed and felt a strange warmth in my chest because it was my choice. A dry muffin became proof that the story was not running my day anymore. I went for a walk in my neighborhood and looked up at the trees instead of at every shadow. I practiced breathing through my nose and letting my shoulders drop. It felt silly. It also helped. I stopped rereading the messages. I stopped checking the old screenshots. I moved the folder of evidence off my phone and into a secure drive where I did not have to see it daily. Even then, the residue showed up in small ways. When someone messaged quickly after I posted something, I flinched. When a stranger used my name in a store, I felt my stomach drop. When a coworker remembered a detail I had shared casually, I wondered how long they had been storing it. I learned to notice that thought and label it. That is residue. That is fear talking. That is not proof. That labeling helped. The detective checked in once after the case closed. He said Aaron had tried to justify it to himself for a long time. He said Aaron thought he was building a relationship. He said Aaron thought he was creating a version of himself that I could accept. The detective said something else. He said Aaron never talked about love. He talked about winning. He talked about getting me to respond. He talked about not letting me slip away. That made sense. Because the moment I pulled away, the tone shifted. The mask cracked. The pressure showed. That is the difference between connection and control. Connection tolerates space. Control punishes it. I thought about that for a long time. I also thought about Colin, about how he became an accessory without fully understanding the harm. I wondered how many people do that. How many people help someone else access a target and tell themselves it is harmless? A quick favor, a simple drop-off, a little information, it adds up. I do not tell this story to scare people away from talking online. Online connection can be real. It can be good. It can be a lifeline. I tell it because I learned one rule the hard way. If someone knows things you did not give them, do not explain it away. If someone is always there at the exact right moment, do not call it fate. If someone reacts to your boundaries like they are insults, do not call it passion. Call it what it is. Information without consent is not intimacy. It is surveillance. Months after everything ended, I found the old necklace chain in the back of a drawer. I had stopped wearing it after the first comment. I could not help it. The necklace had become part of the story. I held it in my hand and realized something. Aaron did not ruin the necklace. Aaron revealed how easily my body can attach fear to an object. So I put it back on, not because I wanted to be brave, because I wanted to reclaim the small parts of myself that had been taken. When I walked outside wearing it, I felt exposed for a moment. Then the moment passed. No one looked twice. No one followed. No one knew. The world kept turning. That is how healing looked for me. Not a dramatic victory. Small, quiet choices, again and again. And then one evening I was at a bookstore and my phone buzzed with a message from Marissa. "Want to grab dinner?" I smiled and replied, "Yes." Then I looked up and realized I had smiled without checking who was around me. That was the real sign. Not that I stopped being cautious, that I stopped being owned by caution. That is where this story ends for me. With a reminder, I wish I had believed from the start. Your life belongs to you. Your patterns belong to you. Your attention belongs to you. And if someone tries to take those things with a sweet voice and a gentle question, you do not owe them access. You owe yourself safety. I went back through my old messages one last time before deleting them. I wanted to understand how he sounded before I knew, before fear colored everything. Reading them again was unsettling. He sounded thoughtful, patient, supportive. There was no villain language, no obvious manipulation. That is what makes stories like this dangerous. They do not look like cautionary tales until the end. They look like connection. I realized something as I read. The moments that hooked me were the moments where he reflected me back to myself. You feel overlooked. You try too hard. You hide stress well. Those were not insights. They were observations anyone near me could make. He did not know me deeply. He watched me closely. There is a difference. One last thing I learned is that you can be careful without being closed. You can listen to your instincts without turning every person into a suspect. The goal is not to live in fear. The goal is to notice early signs and act sooner. The earlier you act, the less power the mass collects. If you are hearing this and you recognize the pattern, trust that recognition. Save the messages. Tell one safe person. Change one habit that removes access. Do not wait for a dramatic moment to prove you are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed now. The final realization came quietly. One night I was sitting alone in my new apartment reading. The window was open. The city hummed outside. My phone buzzed. A notification from a delivery app. Your order has arrived. I had not ordered anything. My breath caught before my brain caught up. I checked the details. Wrong address. Wrong name. Nothing. I exhaled and laughed softly at myself. Then I stopped laughing, because that moment showed me something important. The fear was no longer about him. It was about the possibility. The idea that someone could know you without your consent. That proximity itself could be used as a weapon. The catfish was not dangerous because he lied online. He was dangerous because he already had access, because he used familiarity as permission, because he believed attention was ownership. That is what I carry now, not paranoia. Awareness. Trust is built slowly for a reason. When someone knows too much too fast, it is not intimacy. It is surveillance. Don't forget to subscribe to Love, Lies, and Cheating. Until we meet again.